Welcome to episode 3 of the Model A build. We are today going to be putting in a new cowl panel, a new firewall, and making the 2 existing side cowl panels fit. So stay tuned, it should be pretty exciting, it should be pretty informational as well. So stay tuned, hope you like it.
Just to show you, we went up to Hershey, Pennsylvania a couple weeks ago, and we bought a bunch of stuff for the Model A, and one of the things we bought was new fenders. This is actually an original new old stock 1928 Ford fender. This is just the way they looked coming out of the factory. This has never been installed on a car, and if you look at it, it's brand spanking new. It's just like the day it was built. The other one is a new fender, but it was just produced. They've actually quit making these, and Carrie and I were lucky enough to run across one of them. But it's also a brand new steel fender. So these are nice. A lot of times, if you look, there's a lip here that goes around the fender. This has a rod inside of it to help stability. If the rod cracks, then you'll end up with a crack on the outside of your fender here. But we saw these, they were a fairly decent buy, so we went ahead and grabbed them. So we still will probably fix the other ones just as spares, but it's nice to have brand new ones. All right, we're going to try to get this bolted in today. What we want to do is get it bolted in as a foundation so we know exactly where that's at. We're going to take this old firewall out and we're going to replace it with a new one and put this piece on. So we want to get this part. We took these off and we blasted them inside and out, and just with a couple bolts bolted them back in so we could pre-fit everything. These are really nice shape. They got a couple little dings in them I got to fix, but nothing I can't do with a hammer and dolly. So we want to get this fixed. As you remember, we took the gas tank out of it and replaced it with just this solid piece of metal. That gives us a much better foundation to build the inside and put a nice dash in it. So
Gives us a lot more room too.
Yeah.
Especially since we're going to be using like air conditioning, and we'll have 6 gauges in it. Whereas when we showed you guys when we originally took the original cowl out, it had that little diamond shaped instrument cluster with 4 gauges and a cowl or and a dash light. So
well, and with this you hide everything. You won't see the air conditioning underneath the dash, anything like that. So we've got to take a couple measurements. This actually bolts in along this upper edge. So what we're going to do is take a couple measurements, make sure it's both sides are in the same distance, make sure this is lined up where it's going to come down, and everything's going to, this piece will actually be welded to this piece. So we want to make sure everything's going to fit the way it's supposed to. Once we get a couple screws in here, we'll probably drill some holes in here and put clecos in it so that they stay in place. And then we can spot weld it to the firewall and everything. So, all right, we're going to take a couple measurements here and make sure both sides are equal. And that's about 14.5 right on the nose. Carrie will do the same thing on the other side.
my side needs to come out a little bit.
Give him a... If you look down inside of here, there's some holes down through this section right here that we're going to mark, and then we'll actually drill them out so that it's bolted in place and stays where it's supposed to.
So while he's marking all the holes, I'm going to put a C-clamp on it so it doesn't move. Good for you, you didn't see me fitting the body and stuff, because it took for probably 3 hours just to get the body adjusted and measurements and everything right. And the body's pretty darn close, if not perfect. So just so we can get a better angle at it, we're going to take the visor off and the header bar off. So that way we can kind of get in there better and drop that.
No, I didn't even see it though. God, I can't believe it caught that.
Wow, that was a nice
I
catch.
didn't even see it. All right, there's a bolt right here on this side.
Work.
And we're just temporarily putting this together, but we use all stainless steel nuts and bolts so that they'll stay together. Usually when you put them on, you put a thread stuff on them so that they don't bind. I'm not going to do that right now because we've got to take these apart several times again. So,
and we're also wearing black and anti-seize. If you've ever
gets
used
all
it,
over
it gets everywhere.
We assemble everything, and we have supplies to stainless steel, and that's all we use. So that way we know it's going to stay there.
These cars are so cool because they're so simple. Like, I love that about Model A's. And actually, any old-time car. Spider.
I'm afraid of that stinking spider. Kill it.
So,
Kill it.
so we have spiders out here that are like the size of my head.
I know we saw one.
Yeah.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, and they're absolutely terrifying.
They're grass spiders. They're not going to hurt you, but
They're
they aren't the most
tarantulas.
attractive things in the world. So
I'm pretty sure they're poisonous, deadly tarantulas.
the next step is we're going to take this off and then take this piece back off this old firewall. That's the original firewall. And if you look, this is the new one. And because of the engine we're putting in, we need this area to give us more clearance for the engine, because you got to remember this originally had a 4-cylinder motor in it, and we're putting a Hemi in it, so we need to get some space in here so you can give that Hemi a little bit of room to move. So we're going to take the original firewall out. This side's already cut loose, Carrie.
Yeah, I gotta cut this
You
side.
got this side bolted though, don't you?
I got what?
Is this side bolted down or just got a screw stuck in it?
Just got it's kind of screwed in. Okay, so I got to cut this brace. All right, so we're gonna cut it right here.
Okay. Here, Carol. On the original Model A, on the back of the firewall, you see a kick type panel that comes down to meet the floor. Well, on this setup, we're not going to have that. The floor will come right up to the firewall. So it's a little bit different design. It gives you a little bit more room. You won't have the kick up. The floor won't kick up like that. That's a new piece that would go there.
If this was original, it'd go
just like that.
something like that. And then it goes like that. So you got extra support and stuff, and then this would bolt to where the body mount goes. So, but with we're actually using the Direct Sheetmetal, which is one of our vendors. We're using their firewall and floor and everything. So with their kit, you don't need this. And their kit also comes with instructions.
And their instructions are actually pretty thorough and give you a good guide to go by. So
yeah, and what I like about their stuff too is it's real nice, thick sheet metal and everything too. So it's easy to weld to. It's easy to or it's not easy, but it's nice to drill through, and it actually has some strength and support behind it.
What I think we're going to do now,
Put that bolt back
if
in
you
there.
look, these side panels actually have holes in them. The new Cowl didn't have that. So before we go and put the firewall in, I think we're going to push these in and have them straight with each other, and then we'll drill the holes in those so we can put at least a couple holes to hold this secure, so everything fits exactly the way it's supposed to. So. Okay, he just C-clamped this together. This part didn't have any holes in it, so we want to get this as close as we can. I can hammer and dolly this and make sure everything's perfectly flat and it fits perfect, but we want to get it as close as we can to start. In fact, loosen that, Carrie. Let me move this in just a tad.
Wow, this original metal is really nice inside.
Yeah, we actually glass beaded these cowl panels, and I primed them, so, whoops. All right, right there.
Yeah, so the whole car, we're actually, if you look, oh, you must have scraped all the undercoating off the inside of this.
Yeah. This car will be painted shiny inside the body, just like outside. We like to have everything nice and neat.
Yeah,
that way it really looks good.
So
As
Terry
tight as you can.
ended up scraping all the undercoating off the inside of the car, so we can actually, when we do the metal work and stuff, we'll actually finish it, metal finish the inside too.
Take your time there so it doesn't come out. Attaboy. Yeah, for original panels, these are pretty nice. We just glass beaded them and then I primed them. I've got to do there's a couple dings and dents in them that I'll have to hammer and dolly out, but we'll do that before we put everything together for the final time. There's rust hole down here that Carrie found yesterday. We'll cut that out maybe in the next episode and make a piece that goes in there, so.
Yeah, because the good thing is with this all bolted in, like we'll be able to actually take, these panels will come off, like the side cowl panels will come off. We'll be able to unbolt this and actually take this and the whole firewall off. So you'll literally just be left with just this little like stand-up cowl section.
Well, and I like to paint everything inside, so like underneath this cowl, inside the firewall will all be painted the same color as the car, and it'll be shiny and buffed. And
All right, Chetty Cathy, how's that fitting?
feels good. Okay, one more bolt. We'll be okay. What'd you do?
C-clamp comes off easier if I loosen it. So pretty much what we're doing now, we're just going to repeat the same thing on this side, drill the holes, bolt it together, and get it ready to go. Now that we repeated that, we got everything fit up and lined up right. What we're going to do is knock this top section off of the firewall and then put it on the new piece and then put that whole new piece in there.
Easy. I got it. I got it. As you can tell, the old gas tank bolted right here, where this one has a flange on it that goes over. When we do this, we'll probably drill some holes through here, and then I'll put button welds on it, and to be nice and neat. You grind it off, you'll never know it's actually welded together. So that'll make that firewall one-piece firewall. So, and then we could unbolt the whole thing the way we've got it bolted in. It would just, you take the bolts out of the sides, take the bolt out of the top, that whole firewall with the upper cowl will come off. So it makes it a nice one-piece setup. So
We're gonna have to make some feet for it too, but that'll come in a later episode when we do the floor.
we were talking about the gas on the old Model A's, how it's just a downdraft because the gas tank sat here. Here's where the line actually bolted on. Then there was another line that slid over this and went down, directly down to the carburetor to drain. That stuff is going to be completely different than a new engine would be. So.
Yeah, so this is actually the carburetor. We'll show this in a later episode too when we're explaining the motors and stuff and telling you about it, because we have a stock 4-banger out of a Model A that we can show you too. But this is actually the original intake manifold and carburetor. So I mean, you know, I think my lawnmower actually has a bigger intake and carburetor.
Pull down the 440 when I'll hold this.
Oh yeah. So this is a 440 intake manifold with a Phytech fuel injection setup on it.
So just to show you the difference, there was a lot of progress made in a few years. So,
yeah.
And today again would be completely different. We could show you that Hellcat engine sitting there. It's got a supercharger on it, but even the manifolds today, a lot of them are made out of plastic. They're a completely different setup. So there's a lot of progression as time went on. So, okay, let's get these out of the way. We'll get the new one over here. This is a completely different firewall. When you saw that one, it was pretty much straight down and flat. On Model A's, if you add a bigger motor, a lot of times you don't have the clearance. The distributor may hit the firewall. Different things may hit it. So we bought a 4-inch setback on the firewall so that we can put that Hemi motor in and still have the clearance for the heads and all that stuff. So this is the way this one looks. So we'll attach this panel back on here. This just slides over, hopefully.
It's not going to. Oh my God, it is. You got that side.
Tap it in a little bit, here. Okay, just a little. And as you can see, they make it pretty, just a tape. All right, that's perfect. They make these to fit pretty nice. Direct Sheetmetal makes a real nice setup here for people that are changing this out. We carry their stuff. It's well made. It's made to fit, so you don't have to worry about it. So, all right, let's give this a try and see if it fits. Hopefully it goes in the hole we've got here. That's the corners. We got a problem over here.
Hold on, let me see it. That needs trimmed on the bottom. Does it go at an angle?
Yeah, but the cowl's not back all the way. See, your side it is. We may have to shorten that wood. All right, we put some wood body mounts in here, and this won't go back all the way because of the wood body mount. It squares off, and with this being rounded the way it is, the wood's actually hitting this curve. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a nice little notch in the wood so that the firewall will go back where it's supposed to. Hopefully that gets us in alignment with what we need to do.
I'm actually going to cut about a ½ inch off that.
So we're going to pull this back out.
I was going to explain all that, but you know, the star of the show wanted to explain it all.
So we're actually going to cut this edge off some, and we may even nip this back just a hair. Just cut it back maybe 1/4 inch or so, but we want to get rid of this angle. Put more of an angle in so when it comes back it allows that firewall to curve around there. So we'll have our lackey go ahead and cut that off. That's 28.5. I don't know, it's more than that. It's 28 3/4. So this side of the body's got to come forward. This is the kind of stuff that takes time because you got to have it perfect. If you don't have it perfect, it's not going to, everything's not going to line up the way it's supposed to. Let's stay there a second. All right, you moved it about a quarter of an inch. You gotta move it back. That's 28 right in the nose.
Got him, dude.
That was a lucky push.
That wasn't luck, folks. That was pure skill.
That's 28 right in the nose. All right, now let's try this again.
We should probably, can we glue that wood back on now?
No, that's all right. I'd rather not have it there. It gives us a little bit of leeway to play with it. Ah, now that's more like it. This has to come out just a tad.
Nailed it. All right, time out. Before you do anything.
Now, as you can see, this panel on both sides was clear back here, so it made this not line up straight. Now, if you look, we'll do a little tweak in here, but that goes perfectly right down with the firewall. So we've got to move this out at the top, but it's going to be perfect now. Just takes a little time, a little bit of playing to make sure it's right. What he's doing right now, we're drilling a couple holes and we're going to put Cleco clamps in. If you guys never use these, we carry them at Summit Racing. They're a great tool when you're welding stuff together. You put them in, it clips it together, goes through a small hole. You put it in like that and it holds everything together. Keeps everything in place. So they come in handy. We use them all the time. So if you're putting a car like this together when you're doing sheet metal floors or sheet metal panels, whatever, it puts like an 1/8 inch hole in. Once you get it spot welded in, you take the clecos out, you button weld the hole, grind it off, nobody ever knows you did it.
Honestly, it's like a removable rivet, pretty much.
They really come in handy. We use them all the time. Oh yeah, we got perfect clearance in there now, Carrie. If you remember, in the back of the original Firewall, there was a bracket. All right, so this Firewall didn't come with it. So to give it a little extra support, we actually made a couple brackets here that will weld in behind. Then it'll bolt the Firewall and everything right down to the frame. So we'll have good support there. The Firewall won't be able to move back and forth, and it'll take care of any support that we need. So once he gets this done, then we'll work on these.
So if you see how I'm doing this, this is pretty much completely flush. It doesn't have to be perfectly flush, but I mean, I got it pretty darn close. He's pushing this side out so I can get this flush. That's perfect.
Now the big thing is getting all this straight. We'll probably put some clecos in here too. If we wouldn't have measured and started just cutting metal and trying to make it fit, everything would have been cattywampus and then nothing else would have fit. So you've just got to take your time, be patient, take measurements.
Oh, you know what?
What?
Get this centered in the top, and then we cleco it on, and you grind this to match, because this needs to come back anyways to match the side cowl.
And we'll get a couple clecos in here and get everything attached.
Hold on, typical car guy thing now.
Yeah, we always like to look at it. That's the big thing. You want to stand back and look at how nice it actually looks now.
For a solid 20 minutes.
That is a big difference though with between the old stuff you guys saw, all the old gas tank, the old Firewall and everything, and you see how much nicer it looks now. We'll probably, before we weld everything solid, I'll probably put the motor and transmission back in because this opening may have to get a little bit bigger right here, so I may have to cut that out and move it up a little bit to give us a little more clearance. With the Hemi motor that we're using, the valve covers may still hit here, so I may have to cut an indentation in here to just adjust it, but we'll probably test fit the motor here again pretty quick and make sure everything's right. Then we'll do the final welding and we'll be done.
I still think I want to do that rod too, because I think it'd clean this edge
Yeah, we'll
up
see.
right here.
We'll see. I don't know if I want that.
Big thing. Duplicate.
Let's do the same thing on the other side, then if we got trim it, trim it. All right, now we put the new Firewall in. This is the old one. You can see on the old one there was a bracket that went around the front and attached with rivets, and then it came down here this way and it bolted to the wood that's inside the floor. If you look, this one's rusted away. So this new Firewall didn't have anything like that. So rather than not put that support in the bottom, we actually made little brackets for it. They're already, we pre-drilled them and everything. They're pretty much ready to go. So what we'll do is we'll bolt these down through the frame, through the wood, and then we'll put a couple tack welds around it, and then we'll pull it back out and weld it solid. But this will give the bottom of that frame good support. If we wanted to take this section off, we'd have like 4 bolts down the side, about 6 bolts across the top, 4 bolts down the other side, and we could pull this whole front cowl off in one piece. So it'll make it really nice and make it a real nice solid installation. So this just gives it a bunch of support. We'll slide the sheet metal floor underneath this when we put it together, then this will go on top. So it'll work really nice. It'd be just a real solid installation. So that's what we're looking for with these. So Carrie's going to bolt this one down in there so it's ready to go.
All right, so this piece goes right up in here. So it mounts to our Firewall, and then bolt goes through there. So just for now, just to kind of place it, we're going to put the bolt in. These aren't even the right bolts for it. They're just kind of going there as a placeholder. All right, that's where we want it. So now we're going to weld that in. I got some nice welds up top, and then I'll go down the sides of it and make sure it's really on there secure and it can't bend back and forth if we take it on and off. Now that that side's done, just repeat the other side, and then our Firewall and everything's pretty much installed until we get the motor in and we're able to fit the transmission tunnel and everything. But other than that, thanks for joining us today. It was a blast. We're getting some work done. And make sure you keep coming back. Make sure you keep watching, comment on it, like it, whatever you want to do. Just leave us some comments. And if there's anything you guys want to see specifically on the next episodes, make sure you write that in comments. In the meantime, for some behind the scenes stuff, if you want to go follow me on Instagram, I am at McFly_design_63, or the shop is at K_MAC Customs 330. All right, guys, talk to you later, and have a good week.